So, looping basics. When we're doing a loop, we have to figure out three things. One is, how do we get into the loop? How do we get out of the loop? And how do we know we're out of the loop? So we use something to initialize it. We can either use a input or we can use an assignment. If we know that the person who's using our software wants to get into the loop when they start the software, then we use an assignment just like this. So I put yes into loop again. Then I come and test, is yes into loop again? And of course it is. And I step into the loop. How do I get out of the loop? Well, I use this input down here to change what's in loop again from yes to no. And how do I know I'm out of the loop? I use this output down here called done looping. That's very important because you'll find that when you're running your software, a lot of times you think that, well, something's wrong. But what you don't realize is that you just never got into the loop in the first place because there's nothing down here. So always start with these three things: getting in, getting out, and then how you know you're out before you put anything else in the loop. So what do we put in the loop? Well, there's two things we can do, and one is we can count how many times we go around the loop, and we'll see this a lot with counting the number of customers or the amount of times we do something. And we use a counter. A counter simply says, take what's in the counter and add 1 to it. So first time through, there's 0 in the counter. So we add 1 to it, and then 1 is in the counter. So a counter simply is a way for us to increment by 1 every time we go around the loop. The next thing we have is an accumulator. An accumulator works the same way. Instead of incrementing by 1, it increments by whatever we add to it. So in this case, I have a place in memory called how much. I'm going to ask a question. A person's going to give me a number, say the number 5, and then it's going to accumulate that. So it's going to take the number 5, add it to what's already in the accumulator, which is 0 because there's nothing in there right now, and then store it in that accumulator. Then we'll output and go around again. So let's see how this works. Okay, I'll run it. It says the counter is currently at 1, so we're at this point. So it put 1 into the counter, and then added 1 to 0 and put it in the counter, and then we outputted what the counter had. Okay, next it's going to ask us how much do we have, and let's say we have 5. I click OK. Now it tells me that I've accumulated this much, 5, and that's because I took what's in how much, which was 5, added it to 0, and then stored it in the account accum. And now it'll ask me if I want to loop again, and I'll say yes. Now the current counter is at 2, and that's because we had 1 in there before. We had 1 in there before, and we added another 1 to it, and now we have 2, and that 2 was output here. Okay, and then how much do I have? I'll do 10 this time, and now it'll tell me I have 15. So I had 5 already in the accumulator. I added 10 to it, and now I have 15. And I click OK. And do you want to loop again? And this time we'll say no. And now it says done looping. I don't know how many times I've had a student come to me and say, Mr. Brad, I don't understand what's wrong with my program. And I look down here and this is not here. And I have them put it in and rerun the program. And they go, oh, I see what's wrong. I never got into the loop. So that's why this output at the bottom is just as important as any other part. So how do we get in? How do we get out? And how do we know we're out?